Okay, so welcome to the session on Stalkerware. I will be talking a bit about how it's advertised, how the authors of Stalkerware make money, and how we try to prevent it. My name is Lukasz, as you saw in the program probably, and I work for Google on the Android anti-malware team, a team that's responsible for fighting malware on all Android devices that have Google Apps on them. So the plan for this talk is first I will talk about what Stalkerware is, and I have a small disclosure. These two slides will have lots of text, but all the other slides won't. So I will be, if you will be so nice to bear with me for 2 slides with lots of text, the rest of it is mostly pictures. So I front-loaded the presentation. Then we will talk about what Stalkerware looks like. So I will show you some examples of what that is, how it works in practice, how is it advertised, and all the weird techniques they use to kind of suggest that it's for stalking, but not really. And then how we detect it and how you can detect it if you ever are in a situation like that, and how you can detect spyware more generally. I will also talk about the challenges with detection. So that's a part for me that's the most interesting because it touches on subjects that we as cybersecurity professionals don't usually talk about. And then there will be a Q&A if you have any questions. As you can tell from my accent, I don't speak French, so I would appreciate questions in English, although probably we can find someone to translate. That shouldn't be a problem. So as I said, the first thing is to talk about what Stalkerware is. And also, as I mentioned, 2 slides with lots of text. I promise you, we will get through them. So the most important part about Stalkerware is that it collects personal and sensitive information and sends them somewhere to a third party, to a server, to an enterprise or another individual for monitoring purposes. So if you work in a corporate environment, in corporate security, this may bring some familiar apps to mind. So if you're in a like corporate environment, you probably want to monitor your employee devices to some extent. So you will have an app that is able to do some of it. If you're a parent, you may want to monitor what your kids are doing on their devices. So you will have a similar kind of solution or app that's on the device. The problem starts when it's not for employees and it's not for kids and it's used to monitor people without their knowledge, without their permission. For example, a spouse or a partner or someone else. So the bar for that we set up is it's fine to have that kind of app if you have a persistent notification that constantly shows that the device is monitored. So you may be familiar with an app like that on a device that shows like a little persistent notification saying you're part of the whatever managed device and this device is controlled by your organization or something like that. So if you constantly know about it, that's kind of a permitted use. Although if you're monitoring someone without their consent, these apps will still be flagged as Stalkerware. So a couple of bullet points. Apps must not present themselves as spying or secret surveillance solution. I will show you in a second ads for apps like that. They may not hide or cloak their tracking behavior. This is also something that the apps are often doing, or like misleading users about their functionality. So they will say one thing and they will try to do something completely different. Persistent notification, I've already mentioned that. They must disclose that they're monitoring or tracking and their Google Play Store description, although all the apps that I will be talking about today are not available in Play Store for obvious reasons. So that doesn't apply to these apps. And again, the listing must have must be formulated in a special way, and of course, the apps must be legal in your targeted locale. So again, nothing scary about 2 slides with lots of text. Now you know what Stalkerware is and where the definition is, and what these apps can be used for. So let's take a look at some examples. So this is one of the examples from one of the apps, and they usually have different tiers. So you will have a free version and a paid version, or there will be only a paid version, or there will be like a free trial, as you can see here, for 7 days. There are different ways of advertising it. So there's usually real-time GPS location tracking. That's fairly, I would say, standard. Social media monitoring, that's a bit tricky. So what they usually do is they misuse accessibility permissions on Android. Accessibility permissions are meant for users with accessibility needs. So obviously, if there's an app that implements accessibility permissions, it will have access to, for example, the screen contents in order to read the screen loud for users who may not see the screen properly. But it allows you to read the contents of the screen in a very obvious way. So it allows you to read what the users are sending on WhatsApp or any other social media. Text messaging and call logs, obviously. The apps these Stalkerware apps, they tread a very fine line of like telling you that they are used to monitor kids, for example, but also doing this like a weird wink saying, oh, but you know, you can also use it in other situations. So they will say something like screen time management, which obviously invokes that it's a parental control app, but they also will say, oh, you can know where the other person is all the time, which again is kind of this fine line. You can also filter web filtering and history. This isn't usually done with anything Android specific. So they sometimes deploy a VPN, and that allows you to see the connections, although I'm always very skeptical about claims like that, because most of the connections we make every day are through HTTPS. So you can see the domain name, but you cannot see where it's going. So like history, maybe it's just domain names. They can track app usage. That's pretty standard. Some of them have ads, which I think is pretty interesting for an app that tries to hide itself. They will just display ad randomly during the day. This is an interesting user experience. Call recording, it's slightly complicated. The call recording, usually these apps cannot record phone call like normally. So what they do is they will make the volume really loud and record microphone, hoping that you will hear the other side of the conversation because the volume is so loud. They also do ambient listening, which is something that is very problematic in many situations, as I will show you in a second. So this is just a live stream from your microphone. Geofencing, again, just a fancy way of GPS tracking. And they all offer premium support, although user experience varies based on what's written on forums. Yeah, you can also see another example. So the installation process is very easy and doesn't require technical knowledge, and it's very fast. Again, to me, it's kind of a wink at saying, oh, you can do it very quickly while the other person isn't watching. You get real-time tracking. Screenshots are also something that kind of is implemented. It's not really possible to take a screenshot, so they again use accessibility and try to like mock a screenshot based on what is displayed. You have access to deleted data. I will talk about it in a second, the way they do it. But it's a very bold claim that I want to highlight here, that even if a user deletes a file, that will still be captured. It works across devices, and obviously more value for less price. It's a very competitive market, if you don't know. So they try to like compare features across different apps. So these are some of the examples. As I mentioned, the recovering of deleted files. I was wondering how they do it. So there is no recovery really going on. They just upload all the pictures as the pictures are taken, and then when someone deletes the picture, they mark it as deleted. So on the server side, it's just a picture, the same one that you had before. It's just a little check mark that says, oh, the user now deleted that file. But there is no recovery going on. It's almost impossible to recover deleted files if you're an app without any other access to the system. They can also get the list of applications. So getting a list of applications is actually fairly complicated on Android. So what they do is they only get the list of applications that are on the user screen. So all the kind of icons that you can see, basically. This doesn't necessarily map to the applications, because one application can have multiple entry points, but it's anything you can see on your home screen, basically. Which, again, probably most users just care about these apps, and they don't care about system apps or hidden apps. They also implement a keylogger. The way that keylogger is implemented is, again, with help of accessibility. So obviously, accessibility have access to everything you type in, because users with accessible needs need that kind of access. So the app will just monitor everything you enter through accessibility and get the package name. So the package name is the name of the app that you typed the thing in, but they will also mark that something is a password. I guess it's useful in situations. This same code can be reused, as you may guess, for other purposes apart from spyware and stalking. It may be used to get your passwords for other things. The thing with accessibility is, I kind of glance over it, but enabling it requires a lot of clicking around. So it's not super simple. It's not like any other permission where you can just click allow. You have to actually go to settings, find the app permissions, allow accessibility, click through disclosures. So it's not something that the app can they can prompt you to do it, but you have to do all the work. So by prompting you to do it, they can just open the settings and tell you, hey, you have to click through all of this. Again, if we are talking about the situation where the device is in the hands of the person that installs spyware, they can obviously go through all the steps. If we're talking about like remote infection, it's slightly different. But in Stalkerware situations, we usually talk about devices that are in the hands of the person that installs malware. That's kind of why it's interesting, at least to me, because it's a different attack vector than we are used to, right? So someone has physical access to the device. We can assume that that person is not terribly technical in the same way like law enforcement is technical and they can, run forensics tools. But it's a person who has physical access to the device and installs something and then gives that device to another person. So that's kind of like the whole threat vector here. They also have stealer capabilities. So all of the Stalkerware apps that I've seen kind of opportunistically use root. They wouldn't try to exploit the device or root the device. On every modern Android version, that's extremely difficult to exploit the device, as you may imagine, as you might have seen prices for exploits, for example. So these apps won't try to exploit it because it's just too complex. But if the device is already rooted, they will use that root. And that's also a theme, if you want kind of a tip that's not directly related to Stalkerware. That's also a theme with other malware families that I've seen. So if you have a rooted device for whatever reason, as a user, you decided to root your device, malware will use that root to gain elevated access. So you're kind of opening it to more badness, basically. So yeah, normally stuff like this is not allowed. By stuff like this, I mean accessing private directory of Skype or any other app that you can see here. But if the device is rooted, they can access all your previous historical conversations. When you think about accessibility, accessibility only interacts with a device in a very specific way. So for example, if you're using WhatsApp, you don't usually scroll through the conversation to get all of historical exchanges that you had. So accessibility won't see that part. So it won't see any historical like messages or anything. It cannot go in the past. It can only see what you can see, right? In a way. If you have root, it can get the database and get all your conversations. So even from that standpoint, rooted device is just more malware prone in that way. It also extracts notifications. So there's this permission called notification listener. Again, I say permission, but again, you have to go to settings. It's like a very protected permission. It's mostly used so that the notification can be shared between your devices. If you have, let's say, a watch and you want to see a notification from the phone, the app that's a companion app will send a notification from the phone to the watch so that you can see it, but Stalkerware also uses it. And again, you have to click through a bunch of stuff that's a different stuff than accessibility, and you have to go through all of that in order to enable notification listener. And it can get all the notification data and send it to the server. So the installation process, even though these apps say it's very fast, it is kind of technical and requires you to do a lot of clicking around. So it's not easy, at least not easy for non-technical users. And here are a couple of these Stalkerware apps. So obviously they try to hide themselves on the device. So they will use things like system service and the package name com.android.system, or they will call themselves backup or test or UPS 3360 service with randomly chosen English words as package name, or internet service or Wi-Fi, stuff like that. So you can see that these apps, you know, if it's a monitoring app for your employees, there's no reason for you to name your app test or system service, right? You can just call it a monitoring app. The users know that they are being monitored. I guess it's the same if you're implementing a parental control solution for your kids, right? You should tell your kids that the device is monitored, and it shouldn't be something that is trying to be hidden. So there is one other danger that I didn't explicitly mention. So apart from the fact that the device is being monitored and you may be stalked or you may not like that the device is monitored, these Stalkerware companies get hacked fairly often, I would say, more often than one would expect. So TechCrunch actually counted all of it, and this is from 2025. There have been at least 26 Stalkerware companies that are known to have been hacked. Probably if I ask you before this talk how many Stalkerware companies are there, you wouldn't say 26. The number would be lower, but 26 is just the ones that were hacked. Some of them were hacked multiple times. Some of them were hacked more times than you would expect. I think that the highest number is at least 4. So when that company is hacked, you have access to all the data that was monitored, right? So even if you agree that you need that kind of a solution, I think that people who use it wouldn't agree that other people should have access to that data. And obviously this is highly private data because, as you saw, it gets notifications, pictures, and stuff like that. Yeah, so that's another thing. Again, I just want to make this point clear because sometimes people get confused a bit. Stalkerware does not actually root your phone, as I've mentioned. It just uses it opportunistically. I call it root permission, but obviously it's just SU binary that is dropped. Okay, so you know what Stalkerware looks like. You know what it can do. You know what the dangers are, both from like actually the way it's implemented, but also that it can be hacked. So I will show you how it's advertised. And you can, as I've mentioned, it's a kind of a dual use app. So you can, you will see from the ads that they try to thread this line between it's a parental control app and it's an app where you can spy on your cheating spouse or whatever it is that you want to spy on adults for. So a couple of examples here: manage app usage in relationships, create custom schedules for app use, or pause the internet altogether to create healthy boundaries in relationships. There are user reviews. These are, I'm almost sure that these are fake, just to give you a bit of faith in humanity. This app helped us save our marriage. We've been in a difficult situation with my partner. To be honest, we really needed that being monitoring each other constantly for peace of mind and for complete trust. That's what we got with this app. We love each other even more now, and I thank you for keeping the promise. Great service. And teaching is hectic. That is true. The app keeps us connected. Once I thought my partner was unfaithful. It showed me I was wrong. Now we trust each other more. A great tool for couples. Yes. And my absolute favorite one. So I found this one completely accidentally. There is a service that sends, I don't want to say spam emails because it's like an official service, so like newsletters or like monthly things. And to their credit, they have a database of all the emails they've ever sent and it's available online and you can search through it. So they have clients and the clients send ads and you can search through all of the ads that they've ever sent. It's a really nice on them for having that database. And one of the emails was, "Hi, thanks for checking out our Stalkerware. While you're deciding if our monitoring app is right for you, we want to share an exclusive offer for a VPN." And this is one of the top VPN companies. It's not their VPN, but you can get a discount code if you install a monitoring app for the VPN. So some other examples. So you can know more about your wife with this Stalkerware. I can know more about my wife's social media activity. Then I can support her more. Now, the thing that makes me really smile is the thing that, so as I said, there is a thin line between like parental monitoring and monitoring your spouse, and this was in a series of reviews, and the reviews were like, "Oh, I know what my kid is doing on social media," and they were signed like Jake, a father of 3, or I don't know, Hannah, a mother of 5, and one of them was Joseph, a husband of 26. I assume that's the age. Anyway, Joseph is very happy. But some of the ads are way more explicit. So catch them red-handed. 38% of couples break up because of phone snooping. Be sneakier. Use the remote monitoring app for Android. So check my partner now. That's extremely explicit, as you can see. And there are also whole phones that you can buy that come pre-installed with Stalkerware. Some of them come pre-rooted. That's one of the marketing slogans for them. So we can buy a whole phone and just give it to someone. You don't need to be super sneaky. That's unfortunately, in my mind, that's the kind of the most dangerous thing, because you give someone a perfectly fine new phone, or at least they think it's a perfectly fine new phone, and it comes just pre-installed with all that stuff that monitors you. Okay. A couple of other things. So the app is designed to prevent any deletion or hiding of activities. Every text message or call, even if deleted from the device, remains available for the other partner in this couple tracker app. So the way they try to go about it is, in this particular app, they advertise it as a way to remain faithful in your relationship, and both people should install it to have access to each other's data. I don't know if they track if both people have installed it, but that's how they go about it in the ads. And another app, it can also be used by a spouse to check if their partner is loyal to them. It's one of the best applications to know if your partner is cheating on you. So it's super explicit. This application helps to build trust. They always say it helps to build trust if you feel unfaithful to someone. And I've mentioned that these apps often get hacked. I just want to point out that HTTPS doesn't work on this website. It really doesn't. It's a wrong certificate. And again, I've mentioned that I'm pretty sure the reviews are fake. So this is Sarah Mitchell, mother of two, and this is Michael Chen, father and teacher, on the same website. They were next to each other. So yeah, that's the reviews. And the ads are also all over the internet in different, unfortunately, news websites or tech websites. So we have 10 best apps to catch your cheating partner or spouse, how to catch a cheater 11 ways, 5 must-have apps. I don't know why you need more than one. These apps can help you catch a cheating spouse and all that. So sometimes these are marketing copies from whatever the Stalkerware app is, but sometimes they seem to be legitimate articles when someone actually went and researched 5 must-have apps to catch a cheating partner. It's just sad. And sometimes people just ask on Reddit. So my wife and I were always very close throughout all these years, but since recently she's been working after hours and there's some excuse, so I may be paranoid. So in order to know whether, basically, instead of talking to her, I want to install an Android app and track her every move. I feel like an asshole for doing this, sorry, but cheating beats it. So at least they're self-aware. And that was 5 years ago, but I included it because I liked the replies. These are the most popular replies. So people basically said it's not healthy and didn't recommend the apps, and just told her to talk to them. My favorite one that I didn't include was a slightly snarky one. So the guy asked, what's the best app to confront the wife? And someone replied, well, usually for me, WhatsApp works best to talk with my wife. So there is a lot of snark, obviously, on Reddit. But I didn't see any recommendations, so at least Reddit gets a point here. Now let's talk about the detection. That's the detection, as you can imagine, because I've already kind of alluded to it, the detection is fairly easy. these apps will have a ton of permissions. There is no app that you have on your phone that's not a system app that needs all of this. There's also, you can also write code detection. Different brands of Stalkerware will reuse the code. The code probably comes from Stack Overflow, or they just copy one of each other. There is lots of broadcast receivers for text messaging and stuff. Services will have to run continuously on the app. This app is like super noisy. You can also detect the use of root privileges. So detection usually isn't a problem, especially if you have someone who suspects that the app is installed there. To me, it's very obvious that that this app is Stalkerware. And obviously, because the detection is fairly easy, as I mentioned, we use a system called Google Play Protect that comes with your Play app. Despite its name, it not only scans Play apps, but it also scans apps that are not on Play, that are installed on your device. And it does so daily, on demand. There's an offline component, so you don't need to be online in order for the scan to be performed. It will automatically disable some of the apps, and it offers real-time protection for non-Play installs. You can find more under the link, but basically if you have Play, there is a component of Play that makes sure that your device is protected against malware. Now, if you are an app developer, you can also use Play Protect. So if you work in an environment where you have clients and you want to make sure that your clients don't have any malware issues, you can invoke Play Protect and see if there's any malware or not in your app, and then adjust your app's behavior accordingly to what you see. So you will have you will even have like medium risk and high risk, so different tiers of malware will be detected differently. It's very useful if your website has users and you're worried about malware. The thing is, and this is what I alluded at the beginning, well, if the detection is simple and you can remove the app fairly easy from the device, there is, however, a problem. So and this is from Operations Escape website, and it says that most antivirus software can detect and remove Stalkerware. That's true. As I said, it's not very technically complex to detect it. The thing is, once you remove it, the other person that installed it knows that you've removed it because they stop getting data, and that may make the situation worse. Or they may just reinstall it. So the interesting part comes not how you technically detect the app, but how do you notify the victim that this app was used on their device. I don't know if there's any good solution. If anyone knows about any good solution, I would love to hear about it. It's just a very complex on that part, which, again, as I mentioned, is not something that we as cybersecurity experts usually think about, right? We think how to detect something, how to write rules for it, and how to remove the apps, but not really how to notify the victim in a really successful way. So, and it gets even more complicated. So there's this Sky News article where someone actually installed a monitoring app on their phone with their consent. Their partner said it was for her safety, and she was fine with it at the time. But then she noticed that it kind of escalated from this being about safety to monitoring every movement and like sending photos and stuff like that. So even though it may start with consent, at some point people may feel unsafe about it, and it's very hard to withdraw that consent later on, right? So yeah, as I said, to kind of quickly recap, we have lots of time for questions. To kind of quickly recap what I said, Stalkerware is definitely an interesting topic that kind of treads the line between legitimate reasons for monitoring, whether that's employee monitoring or kids monitoring or whatever, and this line where they try to make a bit more money by telling you that it can be used for different stuff as well. And they usually have different versions. I even remember one Stalkerware company that was selling an antivirus solution that detects spyware. So you can buy both like sides of the deal. Yeah, and the detection is fairly simple, as I said. If someone comes to you and says that they think they are being monitored, it's fairly easy to check the device for the signs of that. What happens after is the difficult part. Yeah, and that's basically it. We still have lots of time for questions, so if you have any questions, feel free to ask. No questions? Yeah.
Can these apps be installed remotely from hardware?
So the question is, if you haven't heard, can these apps be installed remotely? They are not designed for that. So you would have to do something. And even if you install it remotely, as I said, there's lots of clicking involved to give all the permissions and accessibility and notification listener. It's not really possible to automate it. So you would have to really convince the user using some advanced social engineering to make them go through all the permission dialogues and go to settings. And even from like a perspective of explaining what to do, this can be difficult if you don't know what the device is, because they have different settings and different like order of settings and stuff like that. So not really. Any other questions? Yeah.
Do you see software hidden in software?
Oh, okay. Do we see any Stalkerware hidden in cracked apps? No, again, not really. So Stalkerware is like super specific. When you think about it, you don't really need that level of monitoring for a random person that's not connected to you, right? You wouldn't have any benefits, like if I installed Stalkerware on anyone's phone here, that it's not really interesting, right? You get photos and call logs and stuff like that, but you cannot do anything with it. It's better to, I shouldn't say better, but it's more profitable to get like a password to your banking app or stuff like that. Okay, any other questions? Well, I'll be hanging around if you have more questions. So feel free to just catch me on the corridor and ask. And thank you. That is all.